more accurate. But the lot is busting at the seams. They're parking on the side street. I'm not sure what that little stub road's called. And at the end of it as well, there was probably 10 cars each day that cannot fit into the lot itself.
I know we've been in discussions with CAT trying to figure out alternative places where they could have another stop and another parking ride. It's just very difficult to find space that people would allow you to have along the Turkey Creek area where the bus already comes. So that's certainly been a challenge trying to get more space for them.
All right, so what's your pleasure?
I'd still like to get some more information. I mean, I just think for the people that use it, I appreciate Alderman Hawkins' observations and comments. That's very helpful, but I'd like to have some numbers or some kind of a statistical breakdown before just whacking out 40,000 and no more CAT service at all. So,
can we do that and still approve it in 2 weeks?
You can certainly approve the budget as it is, and over the next 2 weeks I can get that information to you, along with the other changes that we need to go ahead and make as I've talked about tonight, and have that ready for the second reading, and then you can vote at that time what you'd like to do.
All right.
If that works for the board.
Any other issues?
I had a question about, you'd made a comment earlier about the economic development funds being pulled together under one roof, and I think that's a great idea. I was just curious if you could give us a breakdown of what is included in that, and your opinion on terms of the efficiency and effectiveness of this format.
Yes, sir. This past year we put $12,000 in the budget specifically for advertising and travel for the Economic Development Committee and other economic development activities. Part of that went to advertising in several different publications throughout the area and the state. Also, a lot of it went to going to the ICSC conference, which was just recently, I think, a very big success for us. So with that, we also included the professional, what I call professional services, and those are the groups that perform economic development activities to some degree on behalf of the town, those being the Farragut West Knox Chamber of Commerce as well as the Farragut Business Alliance. Both of their requests this year have been implemented in this line item. Another thing I'd like to say about that is what we plan on doing is, once the budget gets approved, working on a contract format with both those entities to try to stipulate and state clearly what the money that we give them and then what the services that we will then get in return for that money. So, and also put performance measures and things like that in the contract. So if they don't meet the contract, then certainly we have something to look at for the next year. Also in that line are what we call activities and events, and this is the Dogwood Arts Festival and the Knox News Sentinel Golf Tournament, both here. Well, a lot of the activities from Dogwood that we have done this year, that's $8,000, and then the golf tournament we have $10,000 in there this year as well. Those have historically been economic development initiatives or things that come through that committee, so we put that all together. So in other words, if all that being equal, then a total of $89,000 would be toward economic development this next year.
Question on the insurance savings, that's a pretty good deal. Any secret to that you can share?
Got lucky.
Got lucky. I like that.
Yeah, I won't give my theory on that, but anyway, I think that we just we have a company that does a pretty good job of working with us, and you know, our carrier saw the light, I guess. So anyway, we got a pretty good savings, and unfortunately, actually last year, if the board recalls, we actually had a reduction in our health insurance costs last year. So we're very fortunate the last couple years not to have very much of an increase in health insurance costs.
With that, I think that seems to be, I know a lot of us have had that increase in work and in person, so that's a pretty good deal. I had, on that subject, wanted to put out a request for an additional item to be added. Last month, the board received a report from our recycling committee representing 20 months of their efforts and time put into that, and we heard about the community as a whole in Farragut, how we recycle less than what the national average is, and how in the state of Tennessee, on average, every household generates 30% more waste per person per day than the national average is, and about the costs that add up for all of that for us. And the committee's report was clear that education, promotion, incentives, these are all good things, that working with the business community, the Shop Farragut initiative, key ingredients to getting more people to recycle, going to take a focused effort to get us to be a green leader in our state. And the committee recommended a number of things, but the most cost-efficient and effective way possible that they recommended to get us moving in the right direction was a concerted effort of focusing that the town staff just wasn't enough to get the job done, that the town staff does a great job, but pulling them off of their main duties, if you will, to work on this project was going to be a challenge for them. And similar to what you've just discussed with the Farragut Business Alliance and providing support for a function that is a concerted, targeted effort for the benefit of us all, I think the Recycling Committee came forward with an approach and a recommendation of a position, a half-time position, and this is where my motion will be, is that we utilize some of the savings from the insurance decreased costs, and we allocate $25,000 for a part-time sustainability coordinator. Job is going to focus on increasing residential and commercial recycling participation, going to provide the board with measurable objectives that the board will approve, and we can have something to go on a year from now to figure out if we're going in the right direction. In addition, as was shared at the presentation at last month's meeting, there is a high degree of optimism that this position can also attract some grant funding that would help offset those costs even more. And so the $25,000 may not even be that much. But with all of the effort and the ideas that are on the table, I thought the committee did a good job of just basically laying out that to move in this direction, it takes a concerted effort and a half-time person right now, again, giving us a year to look at with some evaluate and some approval of some specific objectives would be a step in the right direction. And I would make that motion that we add that to the budget.
And we just say by consent, we'll include that consideration in what you'll bring to us in 2 weeks, as well as the suggestion by Alderman Hawken, and we vote things up or down then?
Well, Alderman Elliott, I think, just made a motion on that item. I can certainly do that if you want to second that motion and vote on that item by itself to go in the budget, or Alderman Elliott can rescind his motion and I'll just put it in and you can vote on the whole budget at the next reading, however the board would like to do that.
Second that motion.
Okay.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
Was that no?
Yeah.
2 noes. All right, so that says just put it in.
Correct.
We can still vote it up or down.
Okay.
Any more issues?
I think on that, I realize we just voted in, and that's fine, but I'd just like to make the observation that I feel that we have some areas in our okay. I realize there are some areas in our staff and personnel who are very much underutilized right now, particularly our building inspections department and probably community development. We just don't have that much going on in those areas. So I think we probably should have some capacity. I would rather see us pull some of those people into this rather than adding another position. I think we have underutilized staff at this time. I'd like to look at that. I think it's something we need to look at. Just putting that out there for consideration.
I would agree with those comments. I have nothing against the ideas. In fact, I support them that the Recycling Committee brought forward. And I think what Alderman Elliott's motion was, although I did not vote for it, I think it is admirable, and I think the effort is there. I'm just not for, at this point, without having a little more detail, exactly what that person would be doing, as well as the fact that we probably could, perhaps, I don't have enough information to say with certainty, so I have to, get some information from you. but I'd like to see our staff do some of that. First of all, what concerns me a little bit is at a bare minimum, that person's going to have to get $25,000 of grants for us just to make it worthwhile. I don't want to spend $25,000 to get 10. Now, it's not all about getting grants. I know that a great deal of it is to make sure we're walking down the right path. And I like the path that's been laid out, but I just want to make sure we do it properly.
We will, at the next board meeting, we will try to flesh that position out a little bit more for the board members to see a more detailed description of what that position would do, and that way you have more information at the next meeting.
Any other issues?
I had one question on the hall income tax. It seems like that was a real political football this past year in the legislature, and that's quite a chunk of dollars coming through. What are we seeing? Is this going to be the case every year, or do we feel like we're in some stability with that now?
I have a feeling that that's going to be something that's going to constantly come up for discussion at the legislative level. There's certainly a sentiment now to start getting rid of anything that says income tax in the state of Tennessee. So that's about the only thing left that we have. That's obviously hall income tax is based on your not even your dividends or not even your savings accounts. It's based on your investment income. And so for us, last year we got about $448,000. We're projecting $400 coming in this year. We won't know for sure. It's all based on tax returns from the 2010 year, which we just don't know until they get those back probably in July. So it's something we get early in the year. In the future, though, we'll have to monitor it closely and see how the state's reaction is to it. But certainly it may be one of those items that could go away in the future.
I think a lot of the people who talk about this stuff a lot are saying it's probably going to go away. At least that's the sentiment that they hear. Who knows? All right, so we need to vote on this budget as is, and then come back with any modifications we want to approve or not approve next time. So it's does anybody offer a motion to approve as is, considering that you've got to make those cosmetic changes?
Right.
Well, I'll move approval.
Second it with the changes that our town administrator will make for the next reading.
Shall we call the roll?
Alderman Elliott.
Yes.
Alderman Honken.
No.
Alderman LaMarche. Yes. Alderman Markley.
Yes.
Mayor McGill.
Yes. Next item is business item A, Resolution 2011-05, establishing fund balance policies as required by the GASB 54.
What this resolution is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which is the GASB, released Statement 54, which is called the Fund Balance Reporting and Governmental Fund Type Definitions on March 11, 2009, which is effective for fiscal year 2011 financial reporting. The new statement is intended to improve the usefulness of the amount reported in fund balance by providing a more structured classification. The statement applies to the fund balance reported in the general fund, special revenue fund, debt service funds, capital projects fund, and any permanent funds. The statement does not apply to enterprise funds, internal service funds, and externally restricted reserve funds. Currently, the fund balance is classified as reserved or unreserved, and the unreserved fund balance may be further allocated into designated and undesignated. GASB 54 will change how fund balance is reported. The hierarchy of the 5 possible GASB 54 classifications are non-spendable fund balance, restricted fund balance, committed fund balance, assigned fund balance, and unassigned fund balance. In addition, governments are required to disclose more information in the notes to the financial statements about amounts reported and fund balances for the description of authority and actions that lead to the committed and assigned fund balances, government's policy regarding other